Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just back in with my masterclass series. This is going through the book of John, going through again the sequence of the end times. So this again to me is just fascinating how often it's looping it, even in conversation that doesn't appear to be prophetic, which again to me is proving that the Bible is prophetic, all of it, and it breathes this sequence, and then there's a story in the numbers. So John 5:24 talking about God's elect. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that heareth my word, so that's them being sealed, and believeth on him that sent me, hath everlasting life, and shall not come into condemnation, but is passed from death unto life. So that's salvation in the last days. John 5:24, you add that together, 29, 2 9s, 18, 666. Verse 25, verily, verily, I say unto you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of God, and they that hear shall live. For as the Father hath life in himself, so hath he given to the Son to have life in himself. Verse 27, and hath given him authority to execute judgment also, because he is the Son of Man. That's in verse 27, with his elect. Verse 28, marvel not at this, for the hour is coming. Again, this is in the last days, the hour of temptation. In which that all that are in the grave shall hear his voice. So the dead in Christ will rise first, and shall come forth they that have done good unto resurrection of life. So this is salvation. That's in verse 29. And they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. So now this is the time of judgment. And it mentions judge in verse 30. This is the great tribulation. I can mine own self do nothing, as I hear I judge, and my judgment is just. Okay, verse 31. If I bear witness of myself, my witness is not true. There is an other that bears witness to me. And I know that the witness which he witnesses of me is true. And that's again in the last days, it's the two witnesses. Verse 33, ye sent unto John, and he bare witness unto the truth. He's one of the two witnesses. Verse 34, Christ returning with his elect, but I receive not testimony from man, but these things I say that ye might be saved. So talking about the group that's saved, this is them reappearing. That's in verse 34, 444, FFF 666 to destroy his left-hand side. He was a burning and a shining light, and ye were willing for a season to rejoice in his light. Okay, so they're going to be returning in these so-called UFOs. But verse 36, but I have a greater witness than that of John, for the works which the Father hath given me to finish. That's the key word. Same works that I do, I bear witness of me that the Father hath sent me. So this is the final destruction. That's in verse 36, 666. So John 5:24 to 36 has the sequence. John 6:3 to 32. And Jesus went up into the mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. So this is in John 6:3, or if you reverse that, 36, 666. It's a coded reference for salvation up into a mountain. In the last days is a UFO. Verse 5, saw a great company come unto him. So this is referring to the mixed multitude. Verse 11, and Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed to his disciples, and the disciples to him that were set down, and likewise of the fishes as much as they could. When they were filled, he said to his disciples, gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. So in the last days, it's coded reference to the angels in the sky, which could very well be the elect feeding the mixed multitude, giving them the gospel. Okay, so that none will be lost. Verse 14, then those men. Okay, and so in the last days, this is talking about the two witnesses. It's in verse 14, it's a righteous number. Verse 15, this is Christ reappearing with the elect. When Jesus therefore perceived that they would come and take him by force and make him king, he departed again into a mountain himself alone. So this is now going to be a battle. Okay, this is what it says, take him by force. It's a coded reference for this battle of Armageddon. Verse 16, and when even now was come, his disciples went down unto the sea. So now they're with him, and entered into a ship, again in the last days, it's a UFO, and went over the sea towards Capernaum, and it was now dark, and Jesus was not come to them. And the sea arose by reason of a great wind that blew. That's in 18,666. Okay, this is going to be the final destruction. Now this is references to the kingdom. Labor not, verse 27, labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for the meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you, for him that God the Father sealed. Okay, that's in verse 27, 14 for the elect. Verse 31, bread from heaven to eat. And verse 32, but my Father giveth you the true bread from heaven. Those are all references to the kingdom. Okay, John 6:3 to 32 has the sequence. John 7:16 to 28. Verse 16, Jesus answered them and said, my doctrine is not mine, but his that sent me. That's in verse 16. John 7:16, you add together 23, 2 3s, 33, talking about him that sent me. Verse 17, but if any man will do his will, that's in 7:17 or 24, 44, God's elect, he shall know of the doctrine, whether it be of good or whether I speak of evil. So they'll know naturally and innately the truth, okay, because it's baked into them. They're just discovering it throughout their life. Verse 19, this is talking about the two witnesses. Did not Moses give you the law, and yet none of you keepeth the law? Why go ye about to kill me? This is referencing Moses, who's one of the two witnesses. Verse 20, the people answered and said, thou hast a devil who goeth out to kill thee. So they're like, who's trying to kill you? But in the last days, this is literal, okay? They're trying to do it again. And again, that's Moses, one of the two witnesses, and says the people answered. Again, so this is God's entire left-hand side is going to gang up first on the two witnesses and then against Christ and his angels. Verse 27, howbeit we know this man whence he is, but when Christ cometh, no man knoweth whence he is. So it's talking about 27, when Christ cometh. So he's going to reappear. And that's in verse 27 to let us know that it's with his elect. Verse 28, this is a reference to the kingdom. Then cried Jesus in the temple as he taught. Okay. And so that's going to be, the temple is God's elect, who he's going to be teaching. And they're going to be distributing that out, okay, in the kingdom. So John 7:16 to 28 has the sequence. John 8:16 to 59. 8:16, you add that together, 24, 44. And yet if I judge, my judgment is true, for I am not alone, but I and the Father has sent me. So now the Father is the one who decides when Christ will return. He is the only one that knows the day and hour. So in the last days, that's salvation. Verse 17, it is also written in your law that the testimony of two men is true. Okay, so now this is going to be the testimony of the two witnesses in verse 17. Okay, and then Christ is going to reappear. Verse 40, but now ye seek to kill me. So now this is the final battle in the Middle East. A man that hath told you the truth, which I heard of God, this did not Abraham. So this again, the world now is conspiring to kill Christ. Verse 59, then they took up stones to cast at him, but Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by. And so in the last days, this is a coded reference to the temple going through the midst of them. Okay, so he's going to be dwelling among them, and that's in 5:9. You add together 14. Referencing God's elect. John 8:16 to 59 also has the sequence. Moving on. John 12:23 to 32. This is in verse 23, 2 3s, 33. And Jesus answered them, saying, the hour is come that the Son of Man should be glorified. Again, this is when he returns in the sky. Verse 24, verily, verily, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. That's talking about those who die to this world, and then they can now have life. And that's in verse 24. For the God's elect, and if you had that John 12:24, 36, this is in the last days, bringeth forth much fruit. That fruit's going to last, though. It's going to be everlasting. Verse 25, he that loveth his life shall lose it, and he that hateth his life in this world shall keep it unto life eternal. That's in verse 25, 55 for God's elect. Verse 26, if any man serve me, let him follow me, and where I am, there shall also my servant be. If any man serve me, him will my Father honor. That's in verse 26, 66. That's in the last days, salvation. Verse 27, but for this cause came I unto this hour, talking about the hour of temptation, which begins right after the elect are taken away. Now Christ returns with his elect. Verse 28, Father, glorify thy name. Then came there a voice from heaven saying, I have both glorified it and will glorify it again. Verse 29, the people therefore that stood by and heard it said that it is thundered. Others said an angel spake to them. Verse 30, Jesus answered and said, this voice came not because of me, but for your sakes. Verse 31, now is the judgment of this world. Now shall the prince of this world be cast out. Okay, so that's going to be the final destruction in the last days. Verse 32 is a reference to the kingdom. And I, if I be lifted up from the earth, but will draw all men unto me. Okay, that's the kingdom. So John 12:23 to 32 has the sequence. John 12:44 to 50. This is in verse 44 for God's elect. Jesus cried and said, he that believeth on me, believeth not on me, but on him that sent me. Okay, so this group reports to the Father. Okay, and so that's a bold claim, if anybody's making that. But it says here, but on him that sent me. Okay, so this is a coded reference to Christ returning. And then for numerology, that's John 12:44. What's 12:66? 44 is FF66. So it's John 6:6:66. Again, that's in the last days. This could happen any moment now. Verse 48, he that rejected me and receiveth not my words hath had one that judge him. The word that I have spoken, the same shall judge him in the last days. This is again, when Christ reappears with his elect, this is going to be the judgment, okay? And, they've been warned, okay? Verse 49, for I have not spoken of myself, but the Father which sent me, he giveth me a commandment, what I should say and what I should speak. Okay, so Christ is going to be returning in a glorified state, okay? And it's at the full command of the Most High. Verse 50, and I know that his commandment is life everlasting. That's a reference to the kingdom. And so John 12, 44 to 50 also has the sequence. John 14, 1 to 31. John 14, 3. If I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. So in verse 14, it's important to read this. Let your heart not be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. So this is where wisdom and knowledge will be the stability of thy times. Okay. And so this is a group that understands that their whole life was preparing them for salvation. Okay. So don't be troubled. Verse 2, in my Father's house there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. Okay. So verse 6, Jesus saith unto them, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Okay. And that's salvation. That's in 14:6, 1:4. 4 is F. F is 6 in Pythagorean numerology. So that's John 6:6, talking about come unto the Father but by me. Now we have the time of the great tribulation. Verse 12, verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do, he shall also, and greater works than these shall he do. This is the two witnesses. People think that this verse applies to them. It applies to people that are groomed for that type of power. It's not your everyday pastor or YouTuber. And greater works than these shall he do. This is the two witnesses having control over the whole earth, because I go unto the Father. And whatsoever ye shall ask in my name, that will I do, that the Father may glorified in the Son. If ye shall ask anything in my name, I will do it. That's the two witnesses. Where 2 or 3 gather together in my name, I'm there among them, okay? It's not the everyday ding-dongs that are on YouTube. Verse 18, I will not leave you comfortless, I will come to you. This again, Christ reappearing. That's in 18 for the time of 666 destruction. Verse 20, in that day ye shall know that I am in the Father, and ye in me, and I in you. So they're all going to be returning as one in a glorified state. Verse 28, you have heard how I said unto you, I go away and come again to you. He's going to return again. If ye love me, you would rejoice, because I said I go unto the Father, for my Father is greater than I. So this again proves that Christ and the Father are two different entities. The Most High created everything on this earth, including Christ, good and evil. Verse 30, hereafter I will not talk much with you, for the prince of this world cometh and hath nothing in me. So this again is the final battle. It's just a cleanup. And that's in 14:30. If you add that together, 44. It's with the elect. Verse 31, but that the world may know that I love the Father, and as the Father gave me the commandment, even so do I. Arise, let us go thence. It says here, but that the world may know that I love the Father. So that's in the kingdom. Verse 31. So John 14, 1 to 31 also has the sequence. John 15, 4 to 27. Verse 4, abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine. No more can ye, except ye abide in me. Okay, and so that's a coded reference to salvation. Except ye abide in me. Okay, cannot bear fruit of itself. So this group is going to receive salvation, and that fruit will then last forever. Verse 6, if a man abide not in me, is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather it and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. That's in John 15, 6. 1 plus 5, 6, John 6, 6. God's left-hand side. Verse 7, if ye abide in me and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye shall will, and it shall be done unto you. So when they return in a glorified state, they'll be able to have this fulfilled. Everybody thinks that these verses are supposed to apply here on earth. They're meant to be in the end days, okay, when Christ is with this group. John 15, 8, herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit, so ye shall be my disciples. Okay. Verse 18, if the world hate you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. That's in verse 18, the world hating this group in 666. If you were of the world would love his own, but because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you. Again, this is coded reference for the wrath of God. the battle of Armageddon. Verse 22, and if I had not come and spoken unto them, they had not sinned, but now they have no cloak for their sin. Because prior to this time, the gospel was preached. They have no excuse. Verse 23, he that hateth me hateth my Father also. That's in verse 23, 2 times 3 is 6, John 1:5, 6:6. He that hateth me hate the Father also. Verse 25, but this cometh to pass that the word might be fulfilled that is written in their law, they hated me without a cause. So they were programmed to be that way. Verse 27, it's talking about the kingdom, and ye shall also bear witness because ye have been with me from the beginning. Verse 27, 14, God's elect. Okay. They've been established from the foundations of the world to inherit the kingdom. So John 15, 4-27 also has the sequence. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.